to the class, and I wonder if someone else is having the same problem. All right, let's just start. Looks like everyone seems to have the same problem. Yeah, I think others are also stuck at the same point. I don't know why it keeps going. Someone else is on the meeting. We'll have to sort this out. Everyone, excuse me, please. There's a little uh, confusion in the logging in. So I'll just wait if they still can't. How am I to share? I don't know why this happens. One second, please. Everyone, sorry about this, but there is some problem with the logging in. I'm just trying to solve that. Trying to see what can be done. Okay, in the meantime, I think I'll just start the class, repost it. So let us see. Got it.
Recording in progress.
Yes, we are starting now. I'll only continue chanting. Starting. Om Sadashiva-Samarambham Shankaracharya-Madhyamam Asmadacharya-Paryantam Vande Guru-Paramparam Shruti-Smriti-Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Yes. So I think I'll only chant today also. Arjuna Uvacha Atha Kena Prayuktoyan Papai Charati Purushaha Anichanapi Varshneya Baladeva Niyojitaha Shri Bhagavanuvacha Kama Esha Krodha Esha Rajo Guna Samudbhavaha Mahashano Mahapapma Vidyenamiha Vairinam Dhumena Vahnihi Yatha Darsho Malena Cha Yatholpena Garbhaha Tene Tatha Tene Damavritam Avritam Jnanametena Jnanino Nitya Vairina Kamarupena Kaunteya Dushpurena Nalena Cha Indriyani Mano Buddhihi Asyadhishthanamuchyate Etairvimohayatyesha Jnanamavritya Dehinam. So firstly, sorry everyone, there seems to be some problem with the links. I'll just repeat myself. The Saturday and the Sunday links are two separate links. It was clearly mentioned in the message. There is sometimes a problem with them. I will try and figure it out. So, in the meantime, it will be better that we try and join 5 minutes before, so that if there are any joining issues, we can sort it before 5:30, because we are will be starting fairly punctually. We've been, so it's better to start before so that we can avoid these login issues. I really do not understand what the reason is. Uh, the links are the same, the IDs are the same. I have rechecked twice before joining the class. So some of you can join, some of you can't join. Just read the message again. Saturday link on Zoom is separate and Sunday is a separate link. All three classes have separate links. That's the way Zoom works. Blue Jeans had the common link for a common topic. We could do that, but in Zoom we can't do that. So let's see if there's any other reason to it. So starting the class now, our important topic, and Hari Om Krishna Arpanamastu. So we are seeing the nature of karma, which is desires in general. Bhagwan's message in Bhagavad Gita, based on what Vedic knowledge says, that there is only one reason for samsara chakra. A lot of us are not fully conscious of the fact that samsara is a chakram. We are not aware of this till Shastra tells us, because we don't know there is a previous birth, we don't know there is a next birth. We have no praman on our own grounds. Our life is our only experience that we have, and that also up to now past. There is no other praman to our life. Therefore, one of the primary criteria is someone has to have Shraddha in the Shastra. Once we have Shraddha in what Shastra says, it becomes acceptable to acceptable what Shastra says. And Shastra says your existence is permanent. The only difference is you attribute this existence to a temporary entity, which is your body and your own antakaranam supporting the body. If you attribute your existence to this is mithya jnanam, false knowledge, incomplete knowledge. Believing this temporary entity to be your existence, permanent existence, is the sole reason for the continuity, because you operate on karmas after this. It becomes actions. And the cycle we saw yesterday, I won't repeat it. Now, that base of identifying with the sharir as yourself, believing the temporary to be permanent, comes from the fact that I do not know what is permanent existence of my own self. That is avidya. Avidya, janit, agyan, same synonyms, agyan. This agyan keeps me in this belief, which is false, that this temporary cycle is my existence. This temporary identification with this temporary body is my existence. And Shastra says, no. Even at this level, there is a changing continuity, and that's a cycle. And what is the fulcrum, if you were to call it? What is the center? What is the adhar of it? The base from where it perpetuates, other than the fact that avidya sustains itself in the absence of vichar, is your karma. That cycle is what he's now started here, explaining here. Calm is the basic force which is overpowering, overshadowing your own Viveka Shakti. It overpowers and overshadows your thinking capacity, and that thinking is based what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad, what ought to be done, what ought not to be done, what is beneficial, what is harmful. That kind of a discernment that everybody does continuously, that discernment is clouded. बुद्धि जिसमें ज्ञान है, जो विवेक कर सकती है, वो बुद्धि एज इफ ढक गई है कामना की उद्भूतता से. When the kamna rises, desire rises, it clouds the vivek shakti, buddhi, simple terms. That kamna 3 stages is what he is now showing in 38th verse. How is it a enemy? Bhagavan said, this kamna is your enemy, your vairi, nitya vairi. 1 minute. This is your Nitya Vairi, constant enemy. How is it your constant enemy? That is shown by example in this 38th verse. As I said yesterday, the three examples are showing three grades of adhikaratvam, or the building up of the desire. When it is at a very subtle level, which means the desire is there in a samskar form, in an impression base. It is there as ragadvesh in the subtle body. I can't recognize it. But when this manifests itself as the first sapling, as a very seed, it comes up as a thought. When it comes up as a thought, at that level, an individual can recognize that I have this kamna, I have these desire rising up, can also recognize simultaneously that I have this Viveka Shakti, which is telling me, is this right or wrong? If I operate on this desire, is it right or wrong? Is it good or bad? Is it beneficial or not? My Vivek Shakti and my Kamna are both seen by me, by the individual. At this level, Kamna is very just about manifested but not strong enough. It is there, but it is not clouding the buddhi completely. It is able to hide it to some extent, just as that example given in 38th verse now is, just as smoke hides the fire. When fire is lit by the wood, when wood is burnt, if the wood is a little wet, you have smoke along with it. That smoke is covering the fire, as if the fire is there, it's burning, but it is covering it. You can only see the smoke, you're not able to see the fire. Fire has two properties. Uske do dharm hai. One is that it gives light, and the second is it gives heat. The two facets of fire, it reveals, it has light, and it has heat, warmth. What does smoke hide? It's hiding its light capacity, the capacity to generate light. अग्नि जो प्रकाश करती है, धुआं उस प्रकाश को ढक देता है, मगर धुआं उसकी हीट को नहीं ढकता. The smoke does not cover the heat. So you can feel the heat, so you know there is fire, but you can't see the fire. So there's a certain dharma of calm, that calm is hiding a certain dharma of your buddhi. I'm repeating, that calm is hiding a certain dharma of your buddhi, which means ज्ञान. किसका वो ढक रही है? वो ढक रही है, one second. वो ढक रही है, ज्ञान को आवृत कर रही है. धूमेन आव्रियते वह्निः. Just as fire is covered by smoke, but smoke is not covering entirely the entire property of fire. At this level, बुद्धि स्टिल वर्क्स, करती है काम, बट पूरी तरह से नहीं कर पाती. It hides itself. I'll have to hide yourself. I think it's very. In the second example, now what is happening? Just as mirror is covered by dust, dirt. What is the quality of mirror? It shines, it reveals. उसकी प्रॉपर्टी है कि वो दिखाता है. वो दिखाता है. But when there is dust on the mirror, it hides away its own property. Dust is hiding entirely the property of the mirror. So, what do you do to reveal the nature of mirror back? You have to put a little effort and clean the mirror, wipe away the dirt. What do you have to do in the first case? You have very little effort to do. You just blow away the smoke a little, and in a little while, when that wetness of the wood is gone, fire comes in its full form. So there is very little effort required in the first example. The first example is the example where your desire is very weak. It does not totally cloud the Vivek Shakti. It is partly clouding, but not totally clouding. Just as with little effort, when the wetness of the wood is gone and the fire flares up, in the same way, very little purusharth on your end can quieten the desire if it is inappropriate. It can quieten that desire and your Vivek Shakti shines again. In the second example, just a little effort will not work. Depends upon how much dust has been collected. If it's very little dust, again, there is little effort, but more effort compared to the previous example. Now the kamna has become strong enough. That strength in that kamna can, for a longer period of time, with more stubbornness, hide the buddhi. इतनी जल्दी आपकी वो हिलती नहीं है कामना. It keeps on erupting thoughts. So in the first instance, you have a thought. It is also available for examination. Buddhi is there. You can simultaneously examine the desire, and if it is legitimate, you can operate on it. If it is not legitimate, you can give it up. It doesn't disturb beyond that. You're freed of it. It doesn't hold you hostage. In the second example, that desire keeps coming back as a thought again and again. You have dealt with it, but after some time it comes back as thought again. Again you deal with it, again it comes back after some time as a thought. So you have to put in a little more effort. Every time it comes back, you have to put in that effort for it to be dealt with. These two examples are clear?
Yes, Dipti.
Okay. Now, third example is where he says, like, the embryo is hidden in the womb. The womb is completely hiding the embryo. You do not even know that there is fetal life or not in the womb. You cannot know from outside. It is completely covered. In this example, the strength of desire is so strong, is so powerful, that it completely covers the buddhi. ज्ञान दिख ही नहीं रहा, उद्भूति नहीं हो रहा, अपना ही ज्ञान अपने को ही अवेलेबल नहीं है. It is as good as having no knowledge. It is covered completely by the desire. Buddhi is completely enveloped, completely entangled by the voice of the desire. It is so powerful that you can't even recognize the seed, the source of this desire itself. How much effort will be required? Shastra says, just as if there's an embryo, you have what can you do with it? You can only wait in time. You can keep doing what is right, but you will not see the results of its work at all. It will in time come out. Means the desire is so strongly embedded कि आपके मन को वो कब वेग पकड़ लेती है, कब फोर्स पकड़ लेती है, and your mind starts seeking its respective object. You are not able to recognize the strength with which it is seeking its object. It completely covers the Viveka Shakti. So, as a result of which, in time, just as life comes out in time, in the same way, this desire, in time, you'll keep doing the right things. Whatever Shastra Vihit is said, in time it will slowly first come to recognition, and then it will come to the stage of the previous example, mirror and dust, and then it will come to the first example, which is smoke and fire. In this way, tena idam avritam. In this way, this kamana, okay, let me put it in this way, that kamana, by that kamana, this is covered. What is this is said in the next verse. Here in this verse, this is not explained. All it says is kamana ki teen avastha hai. Let me put it in a nutshell now, once again. कामना की तीन अवस्था है. One kamana is very weak. I desire something, but it stops there. I can deal with this desire if it is not appropriate. I have the knowledge, I have the resources, or a little satsang, or a little, seeking the advice of the elders or those who know, and I'm able to see the reason behind, and I'm no longer carried away by the desire. It's not desperate measures for me. I'm able to handle it. Gone. At the second stage, it's strong, it's powerful, it's much more stronger. Over here, I do not, if someone tells me this is not right for you, that's not enough for me. If someone says you should not, I'm not able to quieten the mind. मेरा मन फिर उठ के उसको बोलता रहता है. That means I need a little more persistent effort to grow out of that desire. What is that persistent effort? You'll have to keep to the path of whatever are the right things to be done. Through actions, karam yoga, through your mind, through your thoughts, Upasana, through your knowledge, keep discerning what you can, keep attempting to weaken the desire. Pratipaksha, find the flaw of the desire, and gradually the desire will weaken itself. The third is where it is so strong that that strength of the desire is in itself not recognized at all, and you are helpless where it manifests. Dhire dhire, in time, you can only wait that it will reduce its strength. And you have to go on doing what is to be done for a long period of time. You may not even recognize that it is working on you. These three avasthas are called sthula. Sthula is at the level of dhuma and agni. Then we have sthula tara. Sthula tara means now it has become even more grosser. Sthula means gross. When a desire is in the gross form, means its manifested form, at the first level here it is still weak. It's still fairly trickles of thought. Sthula becomes stronger thoughts. It's gaining momentum. Sthula tara. And third one is sthula tama. Now that sthula tama, when a desire has gained so much strength, at that point it's called sthula tama. These three stages is what he is talking about as enemies within. What are we connecting it to? These are your enemies within. We don't have one or two or three desires. How many desires do we have? Countless. Some of our desires are in the stage of sthula, some of them are sthula tara, some of them are sthula tama. Different stages of desires. Now, here Shankaracharya says, very simple, dhumena is fire, sahajena avriyate vahnihi. Very effortlessly it covers. बहुत स्वाभाविक तरीके से it covers the fire. What aspect is covered? Prakashatmakaha. The capacity of the fire to reveal light, that is covered. And what does it do? Aprakashatmakena. It makes it non-visible. The visible aspect of fire, which gives light, by smoke, that dharma is lost. But the heat aspect of it continues. So there's only very little that it impacts. Yatha, just as, or adarshaha malenacha. He's not explaining much in this. Already explained. Just as the mirror is covered by dust. And ulbena cha jarayuna garbha veshtanena avrataha achaditaha garbhaha. So just as the embryo is covered by the womb. Tatha tena idam avratam. So what is tena idam avratam? That idam shabdavachyam, which is not taken up in this verse. How is kamena, desire, by desire? This is covered. When you say that, what does it mean? He says that in the 39th verse. We'll do that again probably later. Let me just quickly. They are connected. Avratam. It can be pronounced another way, but I'm sticking to this. Avratam jnanametena jnanino nityavairina kamarupena kaunteya dushpurena nalina cha. He says, knowledge, gyan, O Kaunteya, knowledge, Gyan, Gyanam, Avratam. Knowledge is covered. By what? Etena. This. What is this? In the form of Kama. Kama Rupena. In the form of Kama. What is this Kama? Nitya Vairi. It is constant Vairi. Shankaracharya is going to give us an interesting Nitya word pay. That it is a Nitya Vairi of whom? Point to be noted. It's a Nitya Vairi of the one who's seeking the higher. जो ऑलरेडी एक साधना है, कर रहा है, जो ऑलरेडी मोक्ष का इच्छुक है, जो ऑलरेडी श्रेयो मार्ग पे चल रहा है, काम उसको नित्य वैरी है. औरों के लिए, those who are already bhogis, they are already in the enjoyment mode of life. To them, it is not a nitya vairi. It is anitya vairi. What is anitya vairi? उनको कभी तो काम वैरी दिखता है, enemy लगता है, और desires sometimes look like enemies to them, and sometimes the desires do not look like enemies to them. Sometimes the desire is looking like an enemy, and sometimes it doesn't look like. When the desire is giving them happiness that they think it is giving them, it looks like desire is their friend. And when the desire gets obstructed and they do not get happiness out of them, it looks like it is an enemy. So anitya hai unke liye. But for a jnani naha, for the one who is already a sadhak, who is already a desirer of the higher, वो जो ज्ञानी है, not the established knowledge, but the one who's on the path of self-evolution, the one who wants to evolve or grow, उसके लिए काम is a nitya vairi. To him is given the advice, be very, very watchful. And as we said yesterday, be very, very watchful, because the more you feed this desire, the more it grows. And that is how it keeps becoming a nitya vairi. What is it? Dushpurena analena cha. It is very difficult to fulfill desires. It is impossible to fulfill desires. You know, it is completely impossible to fulfill a desire. Analena cha, like fire. And also, Shankara will say here, it will never say alam, enough. A desire doesn't know how to say this is enough. So, avritam, etena jnanam jnaninaha nityavairena. Avritam, covered. This knowledge is covered. For whom? For the jnani. What is it? Nityavairi. ज्ञानी ही पूर्वम एव जानाति अनेन अहम अनर्थे प्रयुक्तः इति. Because who is this jnani? This jnani is the one who knows that this desire, when I acted upon, was the cause of my anartham. By this kamana, I have gained anartham. Ataha dukhi cha bhavati nityameva. So when kamana even arises in them, very important this is. So when kamana even arises in them, it gives them dukh. They've not acted on it. The recognition ki ye ichha hai, and that this ichha is going to make me act on it. That recognition itself makes them dukhi. That is why nityameva. It is a nityam vairi. That nityam word is used because they know कि ये कामना हमको बांधती है. That ज्ञान is already there. They know beforehand that if I operate on this desire, then I may get a short-term happiness, but in the long run, I'm going to be bound by this. ये वो जानते हैं. Therefore, दुखी च भवति नित्यम एव. तेन असौ ज्ञानिनः. Therefore, for that jnani, nityavairi. This kamna is a nityavairi. न तो मूर्खस्य. मूर्ख के लिए नहीं है. Who is a मूर्ख? Who doesn't understand that the strength of the desire is the cause of samsara. वो दुखी ही कामनाओं के कारण होते हैं. वो मूर्ख है जिसको विवेक ज्ञान नहीं है, जिसको नित्य अनित्य की समझ नहीं है, जिसको शास्त्र का श्रवणम नहीं है, वो भोग में है. Whoever is just in the realm of enjoyments, वो मूर्ख है. सह ही कामम तृष्णा काले मित्रमेव पश्यन्. At the point where kamnas are getting fulfilled, Trishna Kale, when there is this desire which is erupted and they are feeling excited, they are going to fulfill the desire. At that level, it looks like a friend. Mitram eva pashyan, unko dikta hai, like a friend. Tat karye, when they get that desire fulfilled, dukhe prapte, and they get dukham, sorrows. How do they get sorrows from the desires? Unfulfilled desires, sometimes unmet expectations, etc. Or they may have got it and then they suddenly lost it. In that sense, whatever happens when the happiness converts itself into dukkham. Janati trishnaya aham dukkhitvam apaditaha iti na purvam eva. This is a subtle difference between the two. When they get dukh later, then they say, oh, because of that Trishna, see, I am so unhappy. I so desperately wanted something and it turned out to be not fulfilled, not met. Therefore, today I will say it is a cause of dukkham. बाद में उन्हें पता चलता है. Who is a ज्ञानी? जिसको कामना के लेवल पे पता चलता है, beforehand. At that level itself, they are able to understand that this is going to become the cause of my bondage tomorrow. So they deal it through Viveka Shakti there itself. मूर्ख कौन है? कामना के पीछे जाता है, कभी कभी फुलफिल होती है, सुख होता है, तब कुछ नहीं फर्क पड़ता है. टू देम एट दैट टाइम कामना इज देयर मित्र. बट कभी कभी जब कामना पूरी नहीं होती और दुख होता है, then they on retrospect will say, oh, because of the desire I have this dukh. At that time it becomes like a shatru. Yeah, I'll take that at the end. Attaha, only for jnaninaha, only for those who are jnanis, means here on the path of the self growth, eva nityavairi, उन्हीं के लिए ये नित्य वैरी है. किम रूपेण, why? Because they are able to understand kama रूपेण, kama ichha eva rupam asya iti kama rupa. This is just a grammatical. Tena, that kama dushpurena dukkhena puranam asti iti. This is very difficult to fulfill. The very nature of desire is that it is difficult to fulfill. That is why it is dushpuraha. Tena analena na asya alam paryaptam vidyate. It is also analena, means asya alam paryaptam vidyate iti na. It doesn't ever say paryapt hai. Yesterday also we explained, it will never say I've had enough. A desire is maha ashanaha, दुष्पूरेण, difficult to fulfill. कभी भी वो पूर्णता नहीं देता. knowing that alam means बहुत हो गया, पर्याप्त है, न विद्यते, ऐसा उसका स्वभाव है ही नहीं, इति अनलह, that is called, it's also another term for fire. That is why desire is equated with fire. It is that constant force, craving, like an insatiable fire in us, pushes us into various seekings, those seekings that take us into the realm of further seeking and keeps us in the cycle of chasing a shadow horizon. That is desire. Know that to be your enemy always. You'll never have a desire which will be um, beneficial. Yes, there is a question. What if your desires are for the good things like devotion, bhakti, knowledge, service, other things, religious act? Those desires are not binding desires. What we mean by binding desires is जब आपको फल की इच्छा है तब वो बाइंड करती है, वो वाली डिजायर्स आपके लिए वैरी हैं. बट दीज डिजायर्स आर नॉन बाइंडिंग. व्हाट डू वी मीन बाय नॉन बाइंडिंग? उनका फल आपको बांधेगा नहीं, आपको मुक्त करेगा. जिसका फल आपको शांति देगा या मुक्त करेगा इन द लॉन्ग रन, वो नॉन बाइंडिंग है, वो आपकी वैरी नहीं है. सो शास्त्र इज टॉकिंग अबाउट what are the desires that are binding you, and those bind you to the फल भोग, भोगने की इच्छा से बांधती हैं. डिवोशन में है, भक्ति में है, ज्ञान में है, आपको किससे बांध रही है वो? आर दे टाइंग यू? दे आर टाइंग यू टू ईश्वरा. And is Ishvara an object of bhog? Will it be the same as saying, I want to enjoy? What is an example for bhog, please? What should we take? Can someone give me an example for a bhog while I take a breath?
समथिंग मटेरियलिस्टिक टू बाय, देख लीजिए, कुछ भी मतलब ले सकते हैं, कपड़े ले सकते हैं.
हाँ, okay. That's like, very, very, okay. So any materialistic word is correct. Let's stick to materialistic. Any acquisition of any materialistic thing, a new car, okay. Anything materialistic. You know what, I think, so that materialistic desire, आपको क्यों चाहिए? Look at the difference of the two desires. I'm equating two desires. एक तरफ इच्छा है for a new car. एक तरफ इच्छा है for more japa or for more connection with Ishvara, more bhakti, more bhav. एक तरफ है मेरा भाव बढ़े ईश्वर के लिए, एक तरफ है मुझे कार चाहिए. इन दोनों में इच्छा है. अपने आप सोचो, दोनों इच्छा कैसे चलेगी आपके अंदर, आपकी वृत्ति को क्या करेगी? Your thoughts, how will they work? What will happen to your mind? In wanting a car, rajo guna samudbhavaha, that desire comes from rajas and it will increase rajas. It will put you into action. It will put you to say, okay, now I need to earn enough money and then earn, and then whatever, if I take it on loan, then I, etc. And then I have to go find out which car I want, etc. And then I get that car. Good example. Let's stick to this. And then I get that car. Then what?
Then that will lead you, next time you want another car, a better car.
Exactly. Next time you want, after a few years, you don't even register the car you're sitting in, the car that you so desperately wanted. And this is a real life, I'm not joking. In especially, I think in Middle East countries, you have all these fast racing cars that young generation really seeks. This is a real example. There was a young person who was so desperate, and otherwise married young, had a child, but the car was stuck. I don't even remember the name of the car, but it stuck in the mind. And did so many things to just get that car. These are his words, quote unquote. You know, After a few months, the car was in the garage. And when we were having a conversation, the person said, uh, whatever. He says, I can't even tell you that car means nothing to me today. And I am surprised at myself how desperately I wanted it. So I asked, what do you want now? He says, there was another one that came out just after a few months, an upgrade of that. I lost interest in this car because this car got an upgrade just a few months after I bought it. And it was so expensive. And he'd put his family money into it. Just the thought that if he had waited a little longer, he would have got the new upgraded car. Even before he could enjoy the what he sought, he lost interest in that car the minute the upgrade came. Now, now he says, I have lost, matlab, padi hui hai. Nobody uses the car. And he is looking to sell it now. That is the nature of a which desire? वो काम, look at the स्वभाव with which it worked. वो कामना थी. इस इस इंसान को इस शास्त्र में ने क्या कहा, इस पैराग्राफ में क्या कहा उसको? Amongst all these words, this example, it can be any one of us. Don't worry, because it's all of us actually. So that's just an example. Don't personalize it to someone. इधर क्या कहा इस paragraph में, if you see what we've just studied just now, what is he called? Such a person who's not able to see beforehand how this desire will bind him. Who's he called?
Mood.
Murkha.
Mood, and it makes it, it's also unearth.
He's called a murkha here. Why मूर्खा? Because वो पहले से समझ ही नहीं पा रहा कि ये इच्छा कितनी जल्दी बदल जाएगी. And he spent months and years, and he means all of us, something like that. Now this is definitely desire which binds, which Shastra is saying is your vairi. Now if I have a desire, मेरे को भगवान की बहुत थोड़ी सी कनेक्शन फील होती है, अभाव कभी कभी आता है. आई डोंट फील ईश्वरा, आई डोंट फील भगवान्स प्रेजेंस इन माई लाइफ. I don't feel the dependency on Bhagwan and I want to increase it. What is be the nature of the thoughts then? क्या होगा? आप अगर उसको, you'll be after it. What is a way to increase your connection with Bhagwan? You have some religious actions only that you can depend on, because Bhagwan is entirely Veda Shastra Pramanam. तो आपके पास लौकिक measures तो होंगे नहीं to increase your bhavna for Bhagwan. Am I clear on that point? Should I repeat that point?
Yes, please.
Repeat or clear?
Yes, so Laukik means that you don't do things like japa and all that?
No. Laukik would mean any of these fulfilling measures that in the world. Japa and all these will come into Vedic measures, means Shruti Smriti Adharit Karam.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Which are supported by, which themselves are being said. Sorry, I'm repeating. Ishvara is posited by whom? By Vedas and the Shastra. जहां ईश्वर आपको बताया है, वही वो कर्म बताए हैं या वो क्रिया बताई है जो करने से आपको ईश्वर से जुड़ोगे. That means if I go to a if I do any laukik karma, means I go for a job, I earn money, I eat, I sleep, I walk, I talk, all these are laukik karmas. They are not going to connect me to Ishvara by themselves. अपने आप से नहीं करेंगे वो. I can bring Ishvara into them, but these are not going to bring Ishvara into my life. But what are the karmas that will bring Ishvara in my life? If I say Om Namah Shivaya, and if my helper's name is um, is Om Namah Shivaya, and my helper's name is
Shiva.
Shiva. Now, if I say, Shiva, bring me water, now, what is that doing? Shiva, bring me water. Shiv, pani lao. What is that doing? My idea is that name and form. But if I say Om Namah Shivaya, now what is happening? Who is that Shiva there?
That's a different connect.
That's a different connect. Shankar, Shiva, correct. That's a different connect. And what is the image that comes to your mind?
His picture,
His picture, that anything that you have related to, that picture that comes to your mind, is that binding you in any way? Is that your Vairi?
No.
It's not your Vairi. That picture, if I can see it in my helper, जिसका नाम भी शिव है या शंकर है, if I see that picture here, what will be my attitude to this person?
respect,
Of respect.
Change हो गया ना?
consideration. Yes.
more empathetic.
Change हो गया पूरा का पूरा? Sorry, what did you
बिल्कुल.
say? Completely changed. Mind has changed. That is what is called Vairi. So, how higher desire, in fact, desires have to be discerned as higher and lower. Those that take you towards lower and those that take you towards higher. Shastra says, those that take you towards your lower, संसार में जो बांधते हैं उसके लिए ये ज्ञान है. और कौन सी इच्छाएं आपको संसार से उठाएंगी, उन इच्छाओं को बढ़ावा दो. जीवन में उन इच्छाओं को लेके आओ जो आपको संसार से उठाएंगी. So all these desires are going to help me to overcome those desires that bind me in the world. Is that okay? That question was Beena ji's, so I'm answering that question. Understood?
Yes, please.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yes. I hope it's understood clear. So far, let's just reconnect. There is some portion of Madhusudan ji, but for now, let's just connect this. He says, Kama Esha Krodha. What is Arjun's question? What is this force in me or in all of us? Balavat hamko anichchanapi, without any desire also, makes us do things that will become papam. पाप की तरफ ले जाते हैं. पाप कर्म करने पे मजबूर करते हैं, जानते हुए कि ये पाप होगा, हम अपने आप को रोक नहीं पाते. What is that force in us? Forcefully हमें, actually what the question is, they take us forcefully. I know I'm repeating it again and again because I think at some point it must come to our recognition which are those forceful desires in us that take us towards papam charati. That's the question answered. That's why also this nature of desire will change. If your nature of desire is for lower things, materialistic things, they will make me do adharma to fulfill them. वो इच्छा कैसी है, तब बलवत कैसे हो गई? Bhagwan says, 37th verse, that is called kamana. In the question, Arjun hadn't said इच्छा क्या है. Bhagwan says, वो इच्छाएं हैं तुम्हारी. ये इच्छाएं ही क्रोध भी हैं. Rajas is their guna. They are insatiable and they take you towards great papam. Do things that are not to be done. And then 38th verse, he said, there are these three grades of your desires. Three stages of how the desire grows. I'm repeating this because maybe in the initial stages of the class, the connection wasn't fully formed. I'm repeating it now. Those desires, how are they expressing? At the very संस्कार लेवल, जहाँ राग द्वेष हमारा है, दबा हुआ है, बैठा हुआ है, वो राग द्वेष जिसके थ्रू हमारी इंद्रियां एक्टिवेट होके अपने अपने ऑब्जेक्ट्स की तरफ आकर्षित होती हैं या अवॉइड करती हैं. That raga dvesh in its subtle form, samskar, karan sharir, we cannot recognize. And they are our carry forwards. उसी में से उठ के a certain part of our desires that will be so forceful, that have been so forceful, that they become a set of our prarabdha and they have given us birth in this life. In this birth, we have a certain set of prarabdha karmas that have fructified, which are taking the course of our life. We cannot alter it with knowledge. We can only live through them. They are a very small portion. These prarabdha karmas that have set the life in motion, along with it, that antakaran, where the chaitanyam is now expressed, because from prarabdha karma, this birth came, and in this birth, there is this identity forming. Say the garbha example. At the embryo level, slowly, slowly, as the body keeps growing in the womb, slowly, slowly, that antakaranam is now able to manifest through the body. That antakaranam is still sukshma. It's a sukshma matter. Body is gross matter. पांच तत्व हमने कर लिया ये in the previous paragraphs and in Tattvabodh also. These are your grossified matter, which is giving us this gross body. The subtle matter is your subtle body. In the subtle body is your desires as imprints, samskar, impression, vasna. Use any term. In the modern terms, you can call it unconscious mind, but truly speaking, unconscious mind is also spoken of only within reference to that you cannot recognize. It's a very small portion of subtle body. Unconscious does not cover the entire understanding of subtle body. Subtle body means antakaranam आपका सूक्ष्म है, और वो सूक्ष्म मतलब it is in from seed form, it is there, and that seed form, whatever are your collected vasanas, impressions, gyan, agyan, जो भी आपका carry forward है, from where that one portion came as prarabdha and the rest of it is carrying forward with you in this lifetime also, those impressions are there in the subtle form but are now able to come in a more grosser form, start grossifying themselves as thoughts when they start expressing according to whichever environment. Like, why did people take to Tirath Yatras constantly? And they were supposed to be fairly strict in those times. Tirath Yatra, now there's a lot of tourism there, but at that initial, our grandparents' time, they took Tirath Yatra as a Tirath, which means my entire thought process is going to be centered as much as I can away from all these laukik world and worldly activities that I do for my survival. I'm centering my thoughts towards that. In that Tirath Sthan, The thoughts that come out are different. And the minute you're out of the Tirat Sthan, the thoughts that come out are different based on the environment you are. This we all know. That thought that comes out in whichever environment you are allowing it to manifest, now they have 3 stages. Grosser means it's gross. Gross means it is there as a thought and you can change it very quickly. That is the first example, smoke and fire. If it is a stronger desire, then a little change cannot help. It keeps coming back at thoughts. बार बार उसके बारे में विचार, बार बार उसके बारे में सोच, बार बार वो चलता रहता है मन में. That बार बार जो चलता रहता है अपने आप ना, at this stage also आप अभी विषय भोग में लगे नहीं हो, but वो अपने आप चलता रहता है माइंड में. That is now स्थूल तरा. It's become grosser. It's become stronger. And then it becomes very strong. And now it forces you to take bhog. Vishay bhog ke alawa, it will not be quiet. That is sthulatama, the grossest. So gross, grosser, grossest. At the grossest level, the idea is that for those who are wanting to be this, to seek the higher मोक्ष के अधिकारी बनना चाहते हैं, you have to understand that these are the nature of your desires and how they will disturb you, and that they bind you, and that they are difficult to fulfill. Therefore, do not yield in to them. Do not encourage them. Do not, even at the level of thought. Now, this is a little by the way, but definitely, when people who take to all this study kind of want to live this knowledge, and you know very well that in the world it's a little more engaging with sense objects and relations, and avidya में सबके अहंकार हैं, aham है, mama है, आप कितना भी avoid कर लोगे, you'll still be confronting it, you'll still be facing it. So in those days, people, I'm totally talking about those days. In those days means as it is supposed to have been. It may not be so today, but people left their jobs and families to pursue a spiritual life, knowing if your family is allowing you to pursue your spiritual life, fantastic. You are born with a great punyam. You can continue living and seeking the higher, and exactly as Gita is telling us, from grahastha avastha, you can start becoming a mental means not the connoted word mental, means mentally you can become a sannyasi. You can mentally renounce. You can still be a sannyasi living where you are because your family completely supports your spiritual path. They are also in it, probably. That's why you're born there. But for people who realized that they couldn't pursue this, say Ramana himself, left away. What about Ramakrishna? Married, but still lived a life completely differently. Those who left means to pursue अपना आध्यात्मिक जीवन. In English, it's a different connotation. अपना आध्यात्मिक जीवन बनाने के लिए, जीवन मुझे आध्यात्मिक रखना है, मुझे जीवन को अपनी आध्यात्मिक गति देनी है. What is आध्यात्मिक गति? If I translate it, it says spiritual life. Spiritual means what? It's an ambiguous term. We use it all the time to mean adhyatmik gati. What is adhyatmik gati? In Vedas, it's a very clear concept. There is no ambiguity, there is no confusion. Adhyatmik gati means towards my own self, towards that Mahavakya, Tattvamasi, till you are able to come to the conclusion, Aham Brahmasmi, that is Adhyatmik Gati. That I should be able to destroy my self ignorance. That is Adhyatmik Gati. For them, even at the level of thought, so much Shastra is spread in our culture. because it is addressing those sincere seekers. उनको तरीके बताए जाते हैं, उनके लिए सत्संग भी होते हैं, उनके लिए वो एक अलग से, to them it is very, very essential that they get guidance. How am I to deal with these thoughts if I have a certain desire bothering me? I want adhyatmic gati, but a desire is becoming an obstacle there. I can see that मेरे मन की, मुझे मन, भगवान मैंने जीवन चूज किया है, ये मुझे चाहिए ये जीवन. I want to spend my life towards my own spiritual nature, encouraging that nature, encouraging those things in me. I want to avoid the life that takes me to samsara, that takes me to earn and then yearn. I think you can stop it at the earn and yearn. That's a samsari. You earn and then you yearn. That's the nature of karma. But what about these, even at that first level of thought? And it's fascinating how Antakaranam is completely ready for everyone to accept Brahma Vidya. But our attention being drawn there in the world, दुनिया में ही बैठे हैं हम, अहम और मम में, अहंकार में बैठे हैं, वहां बैठे हुए को ये सब चीजें थोड़ी बातें बातें लगती होंगी, कभी कभी हो सकता है, लग सकती है, because when your mind is completely grossified, mark the words, and this is not my word, this is Shastra Vidhi. When your mind is completely grossified means भोग वृत्ति में इतना enveloped है, वही चलता रहता है, यहाँ खाना, वहाँ पीना, इसको मिलना, उससे बातें करना, फिर ये करेंगे, फिर वहाँ जाएंगे, फिर हम इस ट्रिप पे जाएंगे, फिर ये, the entire mind is full of it. I can't even elaborate beyond this because after this I get lost. But you can imagine what it is. What is it to be a bhogi? When the entire mind is there, it is the grossest stage, grossest. In that grossest stage of desire, buddhi is so non-functioning. It is there by human birth. सब में है, भगवान ने सबको ये प्रसाद दिया है. Human birth मिलता ही इसलिए है because in your human birth you have a certain proportion of buddhi gifted. You can discern. उपाधि मिली है आपको, लेकिन आप उसका क्या इस्तेमाल करते हो नहीं करते, भगवान can't decide, nobody can decide. You have to choose for yourself. Now, if you have been a bhogi, that buddhi is so reduced, hidden, as if ग्रॉस, जितना आपकी इच्छाएं हैं, मन जितना ग्रॉस हो चुका है, उतना ही वो बुद्धि को ढक देता है. एंड फ्रॉम द प्रक्रिया ऑफ ग्रॉसिफिकेशन क्लोजेस्ट टू आत्मा, वी आर ऑल आत्मा, अभी भी हैं. कॉन्शियसनेस इज व्हाट, अवेयरनेस इज व्हाट, दैट इज सच्चिदानंदम ऑलरेडी. बट closest to this expression of nature in upadhi is buddhi. So buddhi is very subtle matter, sattvic predominantly. It can shine through the ever-present atma. It can reveal as a pratibimba, as a reflection. In the buddhi, if the buddhi is very subtle, means it is not covered by all these gross desires. Not covered by gross desires would mean buddhi will get subtler and open. It will be available in its own full upadhi. In its own full upadhi, when it is available, atma's light, satchitanand swarup of atma, gets reflected in this shant discerning buddhi. क्योंकि मन जितना भी वेगित होता है, वेगित मीन्स इट इज उथल पुथल मन में है, संशय मन में है, इच्छाएं मन है, मन में भी रॉन्ग वर्ड है, मन है ये. इट इज माइंड. दिस माइंड विच इज ऑल नथिंग बट डिजायर is the one which is clouding the clear buddhi. And because it clouds, it is not able to shine the light of Atma. Atma Prakash, Atma Swabhav, Atma Swarup, उसका आनंद स्वरूप, उसका सत स्वरूप, उसका चित स्वरूप, ज्ञान स्वरूप ढका हुआ है. एज इफ इज द वर्ड. एक्चुअल ढकता नहीं है. इच्छाएं इतनी है कि वो ढक गई. And those three he's talking here an example. How much effort will I have to put? So to those students who are very, very sincere, the alertness in your mind is your greatest. Alertness in your mind means in your buddhi. When your buddhi is alert, it's your greatest asset. Because beforehand, you've already understood the generalized nature of desire. Desires bind. Beforehand, those desires, when they start erupting in you, and if your buddhi is alertly available, they know कि यही दुख का कारण आगे बनेंगी. They will nip it in the bud then and there. They'll do everything that's possible to nip it, not grow it, not give it strength at all, not give them their power. They will not feed them. And why? Because they know what is at stake. And what is at stake? What is at stake?
Your moksha.
Yeah, moksha. Very good. Your moksha is at stake. Excellent. Because हम बात उनकी कर रहे हैं जो पूरा interested उसमें है. Now, what happens by the time you are completely grossified in the world, जैसे most of us probably living in the grahastha ashram would be, how are we? We have to start from thinning of the desires. जो thick हैं उनको thin करो, और जो higher की तरफ है उनको grow करो. That is the purpose of this portion that Bhagavan has given us. Understand the three layers of your desires. You will have very thin ones. Most of the ones that are in the world, why we don't get attracted to Vedantic knowledge, why we don't have the stamina to pursue it, why we are not curious, no, not curious is the right word, why we are not interested in moksha, is because the thinness of the desire is for the higher. ये जो भक्ति है, जो कर्म योग है, चित्त शुद्धि है, जो ज्ञान है, what there is very thin desire for it. बहुत trickle है वो desire. Thick desire is भोगना, यहाँ जाना, वहां जाना, ये खाना, ये चाहिए, वो चाहिए, वो thick desire है. तो वो हमें कर्म में डाल देती हैं. ये हमें कर्म में डाल ही नहीं पाती हैं क्योंकि हमारी ये बहुत ही हल्की फुल्की हैं. ऐसे थोड़ा सा कर दो, उड़ जाती. Somebody has to say something, we are out. That is what he says. This is the nature of the desires. And therefore, now he'll come to the 40th verse as almost a conclusion, once again drawing home. If you can remember the previous verses, he says, Dhyayato Vishayan Punsaha. Where did the desires multiply from? Where did they start growing? From your sense perceptions. Therefore, in 40th verse, Bhagavan is again going to start emphasizing, therefore, sense control, mind control. Very important for your desire control. Okay? Yes?
Yes, Diptiji. Today's class, like there's no ambiguity at all in anything.
Oh, I'm so glad.
It is so clear the path Lord Krishna has shown. I can't tell you.
Absolutely.
It's amazing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's anugraha. Sheer anugraha. Because, if this gets covered to us, if this stays with us in our buddhi, that's why I'll repeat this. ज्ञान क्यों बहुत जरूरी है? क्योंकि ज्ञान ही हमारे ज्ञान बुद्धि में होता है. अगर हमारा बुद्धि बलवान होता है तो वो हमारे मन की इच्छाओं को डायरेक्ट कर सकता है. एंड ज्ञान इज समथिंग विच हैज टू बी अक्वायर्ड. क्यों बाहर से है? क्यों पहले शास्त्र गुरु जरूरी है? क्योंकि शास्त्र विद्या श्रवण से ही आती है. और वो श्रवण से जब मेरी बुद्धि को चमका गई, इल्यूमिन कर गई, मेरी बुद्धि में समझ आ गई, अब ये ज्ञान अब मेरी ये जिंदगी बदल सकता है, जिंदगी जन्म जन्मांतर की काट सकता है, अविद्या काट देता है। क्यों? डिस्ट्रॉय कर देता है, भस्म कर देता है अविद्या को। क्यों? दैट इज द फायर ऑफ नॉलेज। एंड हियर ही इज इक्वेटेड द फायर विद डिजायर. Desire has a nature of fire as an insatiable. Knowledge is taken as fire because of this illumination. जब मेरी बुद्धि क्लियर हो जाती है, this can be my guiding source. भगवान as knowledge resides in this buddhi now, which has got Samskrita through Shastra Vidya. Through Shastra Vidya, here in the context Guru Upadesha, Krishna is giving us this Upadesh. Through that, when the buddhi gets illumined, that illumination of the buddhi can now direct all my thoughts, all my desires. And that's the real nature, real purpose of Gyan. Why knowledge is so essential.
Deepti, I wanted to ask you, so those materialistic desires that you can't fight.
You'll have to be a little louder. I can't hear you clearly.
So those materialistic desires, Deepti, that we can't fight, okay? So if we include an element of Bhagwan, right, will it thin out? Will
Yes.
it reduce?
That's the
But
way.
Deepti, it will still stay, right? I mean, it will not go away, right? It will rise again. Will it be as Tibra when it rises?
No. It will slowly become thinner and thinner. Sometimes you have to feed the desire, sometimes you have to reason with the desire. When you bring Bhagwan in it, that is the only way you can enjoy a desire. That's the safest, it's like an insurance policy. The way to enjoy any desire is bring Bhagwan in it and then you can enjoy, because वो आपकी एक सीमा बना देगा, आप उसको कभी पूरा भोग सकोगे ही नहीं जबकि आप भोग रहे हो. So it will slowly keep thinning.
Just when we say to introduce Bhagwan or Ishvara in it, do we mean Arpan Buddhi?
Divya, what did you mean when you said bring Ishvara into it, Bhagwan into it?
I just meant that when I acquire something materialistic, I don't forget him. I don't forget to pay gratitude to him that I have it because of him. That's what I meant. It can be done through Arpan Buddhi, but I meant not forgetting him and paying my gratitude to him. That's what I meant.
That's what she meant. So, can it be done with Arpan Buddhi? Yes, you can include it with Arpan Buddhi. You can clearly, in fact, Arpan Buddhi is the way that I was also suggesting in a way, but going along with Divya first. What is the way to do it? If I am enjoying certain desire, I just bring Bhagwan in it by saying, at this point, this desire seems to be important to be fulfilled. I'm fulfilling it, but I am making sure that I am using this desire in some way back to you. I'm connecting it back to you. How I connect it depends on the desire, but I have to connect it to Ishvara. So it can be through gratitude, it can be through action, it can be through a resolve that I will further be careful of never multiplying these set of desires. So it can be anything.
Which is really interesting, right? Because then when you bring Ishvara in it, you cannot, then you start to self-select what desires can you actually even offer.
Absolutely. Correct. And also, most of these desires are from past prarabdha, and the rest is what you actively develop during your lifetime. Yes, correct. Those ragadvesh that you have ingrained as nature. See, so many of us get interested in, say, this subject very early in life. Why? Because there is a samskar for this also. But the ragadvesh that there are also, when we go on developing, growing on them, acting on them, heedlessly, carelessly, unknowingly, you keep on strengthening them. So this lifetime you may be acquiring more also, but most of it will be continuing to strengthen what we have already acquired. But you can also be acquiring fresh ones because technology changes, world has changed, so we'll acquire new desires. That's the nature of desire. But the ragadvesh, fundamental, that will go on strengthening. Okay?
Thank you. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
Should we end the class? Any other question? I hope this portion is clear because it's so important. I may repeat it a little bit more.
But this was quite illuminating.
Oh, very
I
good.
think.
So I don't need to
Right.
repeat, right? If everyone tells me we can move on, then we'll move on to the next verse. If this is clear, let's leave it at that. Okay, we'll end the class. Great, excellent, I'm glad. So, I don't need to today. ॐ सर्वेषां स्वस्तिर्भवतु, सर्वेषां शान्तिर्भवतु, सर्वेषां पूर्णं भवतु, सर्वेषां मङ्गलं भवतु, सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। ॐ स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः परिपालयन्ताम् न्यायेन मार्गेण महीं महिषाः, गोब्राह्मणेभ्यः शुभमस्तु नित्यं, लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु, काले वर्षतु पर्जन्यः, पृथिवी सस्यशालिनी, देशोऽयं क्षोभरहितः, ब्राह्मणाः सन्तु निर्भयाः। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
धन्यवाद दीप्ति जी.
धन्यवाद everyone. Hari Om ji, धन्यवाद. Thank you.
Actually, I just have one question. Sorry.
Yeah, please.
So just a quick thing. So Deepti ji, you said that a lot of times you need to go against your indriya also, right? So when do you find out कि आपकी इंद्रिया कमजोर पड़ रही है? मतलब आपका राग द्वेष कमजोर पड़ रहा है. मतलब you said ना, if you like chocolate, you should try to like butterscotch, right? Just let your chocolate desire for chocolate grow so much that it can upset you, right? So आपको कब पता लगने लगता है कि आपका राग द्वेष कमजोर पड़ रहा है?
आप बताओ कब पता चलेगा? Anybody? Anybody?
When you get angry, the lack of it makes you angry and agitated.
Mhm. So if that reaction to that starts to reduce a bit and your yearning for it, for its fulfillment starts to reduce a bit, then you know that it is becoming weaker.
So this will go with all the indriyas. Basically, whatever I'm trying to like tone, whatever rag dvesh I have, it can go with anything. Like the effect will be the same in the sense that if I like to listen to some music, right, some type of music, and
Yes, it
And
should be
actually-
it will be the same because in that's exactly what this Bhagwan said in these verses. इंद्रियों का स्वभाव ही है कि if you are finding happiness in it, looking for happiness in it, and you say this will give me happiness, you will feel yes happy. If there's an obstruction, you will feel unhappy. You will feel anger. You will feel irritated. सब इंद्रियों का यही होगा. Because it doesn't matter which indriya it is. What are we looking for is the same thing through all of them. It is that which is getting obstructed.
So DTG, for all indriyas, we have to develop that, right? In a sense, try to go against what you strongly like, right? And just to neutralize those strong desires, right?
Shastra says it's not necessary that all our indriyas, I mean, of course, we would have desires at all levels, but not all of them will be equally strong. So at a time, you can't work on all of them. You work on whatever is most immediately in your understanding that this is directly an obstacle. So one starts from there, and जैसे जैसे आप उस पे काम करते रहते हो, as much as you keep freeing yourself from it, that much more freedom you have with other desires in other senses. Have I made this clear?
माइंड स्पेस मतलब जो जो टाइम और वक्त हम उस पे उसको सोचने में लगा रहे हैं वो बाकी जगहों पे लग जाएगा राइट चीजें
नहीं, आई मेंट आपको जो फ्रीडम मिले शुरू हो जाएगी मिलनी, बिकॉज यू आर फ्रीइंग योरसेल्फ फ्रॉम सम स्ट्रॉन्ग डिजायर, that will now start helping you in overcoming other desires. So ultimately, it is whichever is the strongest now that is in your recognition bothering. All of them cannot be dealt simultaneously. You should not. Nobody should. There are only going to be very few desires which are genuine obstacles. Rest may be very harmless. They don't bother.
धन्यवाद
Okay.
Like I find the rasa sense organ is very, very difficult to handle.
Correct. Correct.
That
Okay.
is the most difficult.
Yes.
You need to be
In
witness
fact,
to that all the
in
time.
fact, you're correct in your assessment because that is also the last to go.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That rasa indriya is the last to be, means it's the strongest for everyone. That is why they said even for those जो सब बाकी इंद्रियों का जो कंट्रोल करते हैं उनको रस इंद्रिया की छूट दे दी जाती है, as long as you are not taking the nishiddha. If within whatever is allowed, if you continue having whatever is allowed, nishid nahi kha rahe means, like he said, mas and kalan bhakshaha, if you're not doing all that, then you're allowed to stay with those rasa indriya. It's the strongest.
So Lord Krishna slowly grooming you.
Yes. Yes.
Really, thank you so much, Dipti.
Right. Thank you, everyone. Any other question?
Deepji, thank you very much for pranam.
Pranam. Thank you. God bless.
हरिओम दीप्ति जी
Hari Om Ji. Pranam. Thank you.
हरिओम दीप्ति जी थैंक यू
Hari Om. See you tomorrow. Who's K? May I know? 1 minute. Let me end everywhere. I'm still on my 1 minute. Hari Om. Hari Om. Hari Om, everyone. See you tomorrow.